Yo, what's up, everybody? It is Wednesday, October 23rd. I think I'm just going to riff today. It might be a long video. I don't know, man. But listen, hey, we had a down day today in the market on the rise in bond yields. I want to talk about that. I've been talking about that. And see, whenever a trade's not working out to the way I think it's going to work out, unlike a lot of these, people who have bought into this kind of mythology about whatever monetary policy and deficits and everything, and they just keep doubling down on the same thing. I actually go back and I look at the situation and I try to determine, like, where am I wrong? Because it's not working out, right? So like I've been saying, like, the bond trade is going to be a big trade for the rest of this year and going into 2025. And it still may work out that way. But so far, it has not only been not working out, it's been outright bad. I'll be honest about that. And so I went back today and I'm looking at, like, what's going on? Like, what is going on? So what I see, and I can only go by what I see. All right. I think that, and when I talk about that, I mean, like, I'm looking at data, I'm looking at reality. I'm not looking at some kind of crazy expectations like this is going to happen in the future. Israel's going to bomb the oil supply of Iran. By the way, I don't even see that manifesting in the oil market, which was down. All right. But I can't speculate on that. I'm not in the IDF. I don't know. All right. So like I go by what I see. And I see, like, huge speculative selling, speculative funds, hedge funds. All right, we saw that. I talked about that the other day with Drunkenheimer and Paul Tudor Jones. Again, what? They talk about the debt. The debt is going to explode. I'm so freaking sick and tired of talking about the debt. Actually, I had a really cool email today by a subscriber of mine, friend of mine, who said, Mike, I went to this financial conference for my company, the other day, and they were talking about the debt. And I thought about you. That's what he said. He said he thought about me because these people were just spewing out the typical garbage, which looks at everything through the liability side of the balance sheet, never ever talking about the asset side, never ever talking about the interest income transfer side, never ever talking about the fact that we had this unprecedented rise in interest rates over the last 2 years or so, and the market just shot up in a moonshot to all-time record highs. The economy's growing at 3.4%. I mean, they don't even touch that. They don't even reference that. They don't even slightly talk about why that happened when all of these people in 2022 and 2023, they said unequivocally, 100% universally, there was going to be a recession and everything else. So I thought that was cool that the guy said, he was there. And I know what it feels like. Bro, I know what it feels like. Like, it feels like you're in some kind of crazy episode of the Twilight Zone where everybody's mind has been manipulated by some mind manipulation machine, and you're the only sane person on earth, and you're trying to convince people that their mind's been manipulated and they're wrong and you are right. Well, what do you think is going to happen? What do you think is going to happen? They're going to look at you and they're going to say, you're the one who's wrong. We're all right. We're all in agreement. You know how many times I heard this argument in my life? You know how many times I heard this argument? This used to be a frequent argument when I was on Fox News. We had all these panelists whenever I did these panel shows, and they would say, you got to be wrong because everybody else believes a different thing. Well, let me tell you something, 500 years ago or whatever, in the 1500s, 1400s, everybody thought that the sun revolved around the earth, and it definitely looked that way. I mean, you could look up into the sky and you could say to somebody, look, don't you see the sun moving around the earth? It's obvious. And then it took a guy named Copernicus who said, you know what? It's a question of perspective, like the earth is actually moving around the sun. I mean, it took 1,500 years for people to understand that. So, I mean, I understand your frustration when you're dealing with people, colleagues, friends, family members, whatever. When you try to explain this shit, I mean, they're just not going to go along with it because it sounds rational to them. When you hear about the debt, all right, and all the time, like I don't say the debt, I say net government transfers. All right, I'm trying to give you different terminology to kind of frame that in your head because I've always said that language is a really, really important thing. Like you got to use the proper phraseology. Otherwise, it's going to program into your brain the wrong thing. I don't like to use national debt because debt has a negative connotation. I said net government transfers. Okay, somebody asked me a really cool question here a few weeks ago. They said, well, what would you call, I forget what they said, but I said the national debt basically is the money supply. It's not M2. Whenever you hear people talking about M2, you know, and they sound really smart, like, oh, M2 is growing or it's not growing. That's not the money supply. The money supply is the debt. That's all the dollars that have been put into the global system that have not been taken away permanently in the form of taxation. That's the real money supply. So let me get back to this thing with the bonds. So I'm looking, who's selling? You got the speculators selling. You got hedge funds, you know, Drunken Miller, Paul Tudor Jones, PJT. Then who's buying? I mean, the banks have been steady buyers in the cash treasury market for the last, 4 out of 5 weeks. They have a sizable, they are rebuilding their government securities holdings in a very aggressive way, okay? Institutional asset managers, if you look at the commitments, CFTC commitments for the 10-year Treasury note futures contract, institutional asset managers are way, way long. Leveraged funds, which that's the managed money, okay? Those are managed futures accounts. Those are hedge funds. They're a record short position, although recently they've been covering that short position. I don't know what happened today. We'll have to see in the numbers. I can tell you that in the Treasury, in that contract, the 10-year Treasury note contract, since September 18th, we have seen a decline of about 300,000 contracts in the open interest. So money is coming out of that. All of that decline, money is coming out. If you think of money as energy, sometimes I talk about it as energy, or if you think of money as fuel, like gasoline or some kind of fuel, and the fuel is coming out, what's going to happen? If you're driving your car and your fuel gauge is going down to empty, it's going from half a tank to, a quarter of a tank to almost on empty, and that little warning sign comes out, what's going to happen? Your car's going to stop. Eventually, it's going to run out of gas. Same thing. The money's been coming out on this decline. It's not like the money's been coming in on this decline. I'm asking you, what if the money was coming in on this decline in a big, big way? Well, yeah, people are really putting their bets on this downside. As it turns out, this decline has been accompanied by money going out. I mean, that's all I can tell you. That's what I see. Now, I could be completely wrong, okay? And so far, I have been completely wrong. The other thing is inflation is coming down. The other thing is the Fed fund futures are still predicting 2 rate cuts this year, which will bring the Fed policy rate between 4.25 and 4.5 by December. All right? They're not pricing in rate increases. They're not even pricing in really a pause in the rate cut cycle. They're just pricing in 2 more, incremental rate cuts. Nothing bad. It's 4.25. I mean, that's what we hit today in the 10-year. And then they're pricing in, the market's pricing in a pause. So I totally understand why 425 is where we stopped today. Maybe we could even trade up to 450. I think what happened was, leading up to the rate cut in September, that the market had, investors had too bullish of an outlook on monetary policy, and they ran it down too far, and now it's just kind of correcting. I don't see these guys as any kind of geniuses. Maybe I'm an idiot. I might be an idiot. I don't know. But I do not see these guys, Drunken Miller and PJT, as any kind of geniuses. I mean, first of all, what do we always hear them talk about? I mean, they're talking about all the time the fucking debt, like they don't understand it. It's another one of these situations where you have these guys, yeah, they're rich. I've explained why they're rich. They make money off of management fees. If you're managing, $10 billion, which I think what Jones is managing, that's $200 million a year just in management fees. Okay? So if you make 5%, which is the risk-free rate on 10 billion, what is that? That's another 500 million, and you're getting 20% of that. That's another 100 million. You're making 300 million a year. You have very little overhead, a few staff, whatever. In 3 years, you're a billionaire just off of that, making you could park the money in a freaking T-bill. And they're making 300 million. So, don't think these guys are geniuses, man. They make these exorbitant fees. All right? You gotta break this stuff down, folks. Otherwise, you're gonna get all flummoxed, and you're gonna think like, oh, they're such geniuses. They're so rich. They have so much money. They're so much better than me. It's bullshit. They're not. They don't know shit. They're just talking out their asses. They're really, and I'm sorry for the language, but I'm hyped up today. I'm really hyped up. And this is the real me. This is the real me. I'm sorry. So I see all this stuff. I laid it out in front of me. How about the whole Trump's going to get elected and he's going to impose tariffs and that's going to be inflationary. That, for me personally, that is so jumping ahead of the game. Like, we don't know. The election hasn't happened. It looks like he's going to win. Full disclosure, I'm voting for him. It looks like he's going to win. He's been talking about the tariffs. Okay, we'll see what happens on that. But he's also been talking about cutting interest rates, which I think is a direct, volley to Jerome Powell, saying, hey, if I get in here, rates got to come down, bro. And, rates, what are rates? I've explained it. Rates is price setting by the central bank. You lower rates, you lower the general price level. Okay, so that's an offsetting factor. All right? There's other things. The EU, Europe, has already put together a list of retaliatory tariffs against the United States if Trump goes ahead. I don't know how that fleshes out. I mean, what happens to U.S. exporters when their goods are hit with tariffs from Europe? I mean, do they try to lower the price and sell them here domestically? I don't know. But that's also something to think about, which nobody is talking about, okay? The other thing, by the way, there's another factor, the Israeli-Iran situation, which I'm just going to say this. I thought today was a very unusual day with stocks down hard and bonds down hard, gold, stocks and bonds being down hard. And we just had this news report the other day of there was a leak of top secret intelligence that Israel, and we know where it came from. It came from an Iranian-born American who has top-level clearance in not the NSC, but she works for in the Pentagon. This woman, Ariane Tabatabai, I think her name is. You could Google it, Aria, and of course she's going to keep her job. There's not going to be any repercussions because it's the Biden administration. So she's been allegedly, she was the one who funneled that information out online publicly. But The whole thing seems fishy to me. All right? Like, something might happen very soon. Why is oil not spiking? Why was gold down today? Maybe these are just great buying opportunities. All right? I still happen to think oil is going higher because I see producers with a very large oil long futures position. But I mean, interesting day today. In any case, a lot of people are trading off of this fear. So I see this. And I always say to people, I don't do stuff based on like speculation of what might happen. I don't know. I'm not on the inside. I'm not at the IDF. I'm not at the Pentagon. I'm not at the White House. I don't know. I'm not, next to Netanyahu or whatever. I don't know what's going to go on. So I wait. And I wait until something happens. And then I know how to react based on my understanding of economics. Okay? And based on how I see people react, and that's usually 100% emotionally. I mean, half the time these videos that I make, I'm talking to you guys about controlling your freaking emotions. By the way, let me segue here for a second. All right? If you've come this far in the video, I want to tell you, I went to boxing this morning. Every day I spar. I got my ass kicked today, and it was really, really frustrating, and I'll tell you why. There's this guy I've been sparring with. He comes Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, okay? The other 2 days, Tuesday and Thursday, I spar with other people. I do great. I feel like I'm doing great. They're much younger than me, whatever. I like it. And I feel like I'm doing great. But this guy, he always gets the upper hand. All right? And today I went in there and I'm thinking, I got to take care of business. I wasn't excited. Every time I know this guy is coming, I have anxiety because I know I got to spar with this guy and it's not easy. All right? And plus, a lot of the sparring, we go light. So like, it's more like a learning thing. With this guy, we go kind of hard. And I was freaking useless. He kicked my ass. And I came out of that session this morning. I was fucking pissed off. I was in a bad mood pretty much the whole day. And it's like every once in a while, maybe often actually, you get these setbacks which just show you like right in your face, like, dude, you're not a big deal, okay? Somebody or something is going to kick your ass. And like, I'm going to see this guy again on Friday. I'm going back tomorrow. I'll see this guy again on Friday, and I'm just going to try again. I pick myself up. I go back in there. I try again. And like, I kind of know what I did wrong. I'm certainly nowhere at a high level in terms of my boxing skill. I think I'm way better than a year ago when I started. I should be anyway. But he's kicking my ass. And I think I have the physical, aside from my age, okay, I think I have the physical advantage. My frame, I'm tall, I'm long. I got everywhere I go in a boxing gym, they're always saying, holy shit, you got a really long reach. And I'm getting my ass kicked. And I wouldn't even say this is a high level boxer. There's somebody probably at my level, maybe a year more. I don't know. I'm going to ask him actually next time I went there. But I hate it. I'm competitive and I hated it. And I just got to go back and try again, man. But today, and plus I felt gassed out. I always work out at the gym before going to boxing. I have a gym that I go to and I do like an hour of weightlifting. And then I go to boxing. I'm not trying to raise that as an excuse because he basically gets the upper hand every single time, whether I go to the gym. I always go to the gym, but today I was really bad. Anyway, why am I bringing that up? Because we're always going to get into these situations where, we're not going to feel good about what we did. We're going to feel shitty. We're going to second guess ourselves, and we're not going to want to do it. We're going to want to quit. I know a lot of you want to quit. You're quitters. One thing I have seen from my report and the subscription, I would say the evolution of subscriptions, is that a lot of you are quitters. And a lot of you are, you want this instant gratification. And I'm sorry, you might not admit it to yourself, but I see that so clearly. And a friend of mine sent me an email today talking about people with short-term mentality and people with long-term mentality. And I thought that was so freaking brilliant. Because he said people with short-term mentality, it's like a child who wants something right now. He goes in the candy store, he goes in the toy store. Mommy, I want that, I want that. You can't have that right now, Johnny. No, I want it. He throws a temper tantrum, right? Mature adults, they're able to control that, okay? I've had a lot of people here, and I think the primary reason, I had only one guy, I've been doing this for 8 years, writing this report. I had one guy who actually told me that my research sucks out of 8 years with thousands of subscribers. Okay, one guy. Everybody else was like, this doesn't work for me. And they didn't go into the reason, but I know what the reason was. It didn't work because they don't have the patience. They want instant gratification. Okay? They're children. They're children. I mean, I keep bringing up the example of Warren Buffett, but I'm sorry. The guy's 93 years old. And I look at guys like Mark Cuban, who criticizes publicly Warren Buffett's approach, who's worth he's almost worth 200 billion now. I mean, he's worth 100, I don't know. He's the fourth or fifth guy on the billionaire list. Mark Cuban, yeah, he maybe has a few billion dollars, and most of that came from his lucky sale of his company to Yahoo at the peak of the internet, the dot-com bubble in 1999. I don't know, and also the Dallas Mavericks, which he just recently sold his interest in that. I don't know what else. How do you say Warren Buffett's approach is shit and make yourself look, knowledgeable or savvy? I mean, you just look like a fool. I'm sorry. So it's immaturity. It's this need. It's neediness. People, you got to commit. A lot of you can't. You don't have focus. You don't want to commit. You want to believe in narratives because it makes you feel better. Oh, everything is shit. My poor life. We got inflation. The debt is going to doom us. The dollar is going to crash. Don't worry, Mike. It's all going to happen because of the government debt. I mean, because that makes you feel good when you say that. Because you have such low self-esteem. You don't want to invest in yourself. It's much easier to just say, oh, poor me. My situation is not because of me. It's because of these things. The bad government spending too much. And that might be right. Look, I would agree with you on a lot of these points about government spending, all right? But that is not the issue. The issue is you, man. And you don't want to commit. You don't want to commit to anything. Everything, when it doesn't work out or it doesn't, it takes a little effort, it's no. I'm not doing that because things are fucked up because of something else. I don't want to do that. I don't want to learn. I don't want to get smarter. I don't want to commit. That's why I like these Navy SEAL guys and these Special Forces and Delta Force. They go into these programs, maybe 200 guys Maybe 14 of them get out. Like, what does that take? And some of them are not so special. They're not like, bodybuilders or gymnasts or weightlifters or anything else. They just like, I'm just going to go for the next rep. I'm going to break it down, and look at my video's going really long, but I'm going to finish with this. When I did that walk across the Grand Canyon in one day, rim to rim, north rim to south rim, okay? Was that like 3 years ago? It was brutal, man. Brutal. And the only thing that kept me going, because at the end, you go down, it's a 5,000 foot descent over 14 miles, and then it's a 6,000 foot ascent to the south rim over 11 miles, 69 switchbacks. And by the time you get to that ascent, late in the afternoon, I started at 4 o'clock in the morning. By the time you get to that ascent, it's already late in the afternoon. And you got to start climbing those, and you're exhausted already from the pack and walking. You've been walking, more than 14 miles, because the whole thing is like 26 miles. You've been walking more than 14 miles. And now you got to start going up. And I kept looking at the rim, the south rim. It never got any closer. I wanted to just collapse and say, that's it, I can't do it. The only thing that kept me going is like, all I got to do is put one foot after another. I broke it down into the most minute increments, 1 foot after another. That's how you get there, man. And believe me, I never, ever thought I would get to the top. Every time I looked at that south rim, it never got any closer. It took me 15 hours, and that's slow. There's people who do it, I know, much quicker than that. But I did it. I did it. If you want to challenge yourself, go do that rim to rim hike in one day. That is, and I think it's listed as one of the hardest hikes of all in the United States. Anyway, that's it for today. Please like and subscribe if you choose to. If you've already done that, thank you very much. And don't forget, go to my website, pitbulleconomics.com. Sign up for a 30-day free trial to MMT Trader. Sorry that it went so long. I wanted to riff a little bit today. I doubt many of you stayed to the end. If you stayed to the end, please say that in the comments, because I'd be really, really impressed. Thank you. Bye.